Am I live? Yeah, we're live. As of Tuesday, the 17th of March, I've just been getting my information about the property situation in the UK with regards to how it's going to be affected because of the coronavirus. And it's quite drastic already. In my experience with the people I've been talking to, there are lots of tenants moving out of properties. A lot of the HMO properties, the house of multiple occupancy, usually around the student areas, they are getting eradicated at the moment because a lot of the universities are saying that they're cancelling their exams, they're cancelling their classes. So a lot of the international students in the properties are just saying, right, I need to get home. And they're just leaving. And in Scotland, one of the rules are that you only need to give 1 month's notice. There is no fixed term of 6 months or 12 months anymore. At any point, a tenant can leave their property and only serve 1 month's notice. So for a lot of the student properties, the HMO properties, ones with, and again, it doesn't need to be every single person moves out. All it needs is maybe two. Let's say it's a 6-bedroom house. 2 of them are from France, and they say, well, there's no more university. I need to just head back home and hopefully get back to my home country. Then that's 2 people out of a flat, and then the rest of the 4 might not be able to carry on living in the flat. So pretty much all of them are getting emptied at the moment just now. So HMO properties are going to be an issue, which also means investors and landlords landlords are going to be straight away losing income because again, we're not going to have the students. The students don't need to go back in until August later on in the year, so they could be out for 5-6 months of no tenants in their property at all. So, and these are expensive properties. They're the £2,000 a month, £3,000 a month kind of properties, which are going to have no tenants in them. Because again, it's very difficult to let them out, especially if if they're at the quality standard of a student let, then it's usually not going to be enticing your average professional to come in and take up the property, especially if it's an HMO. You're not going to have a family take it over either. So there's going to be a lot of empty properties, a lot of empty big properties, certainly in Scotland, over the next coming months going forward. So landlords are definitely going to be losing out. Investors are going to be spooked by this. They're not going to be keen on investing in the larger expensive flats to rent out for fear of this, unless there's insurance policies that are created in the future which will cover situations like this. But again, if it's just a case of a tenant says I want to move out, it might not be covered under any sort of insurance, whether it's coronavirus related or not. News that just came out regarding Scotland. The Scottish Government has said that it is illegal for a landlord to evict a tenant. Let me get this right. If a tenant is unable to pay the rent because of circumstances relating to the coronavirus, so if somebody has lost their job and they can't pay the rent, or they're on sick pay and they can't fully pay the rent or something like that, it is the government are saying that landlords are now not allowed to evict or end that tenancy with the tenants. So landlords can't get, so if somebody can't pay, landlords now can't chuck them out if it's coronavirus related. That, again, with a lot of landlords and some of the larger landlords which have a lot of the kind of smaller properties, that could become a big issue. Not just for the landlords, they might be losing out the cash, but also the agencies that might be managing it. They may be losing a lot of their income dealing with this going forward as well. So if a tenant is able to explain that I can't pay the rent because of coronavirus, they're not allowed to be chucked out. So they're effectively, landlords will have tenants not paying rent for a good while, and landlords won't be able to do anything about that. In terms of sales at the moment, the report I got in today is that one of the companies that does the home reports. In Scotland, we have companies that do home reports that give a valuation of a property and check its integrity. If there's leaks or damp or anything like that, they give all the information about that. I heard from next week, one of the big players, certainly in Edinburgh, are just closing their branches. With that happening, that's going to mean that there's not going to be home reports being conducted. With no home reports, a property in Scotland is not allowed to actually go on the market for sale. So with no home reports, no properties will be going on the market. So unless you get a home report organised in the next couple of days, there's not going to be any, unless other agencies take up the slack and are able to fill the gap. But I suspect with that, it may be the case of if one company closes down for a week, a month, the other ones will follow suit as well. So there may be no new properties going on the market for sale just now. This is going to prove a big issue for a lot of people. A lot of people were needing to sell. A lot of people that I heard of one report of somebody who's in the middle of getting a divorce, and part of the divorce is before they're allowed to be divorced, they've got to sell the house. Otherwise, if one leaves the house, it's considered abandoning the family or something like that. So they have to sell their house before they're able to leave. They were planning on selling the house just next week. That's been postponed. That could be postponed for the next 6 months. And so then the next thing is a lot of the more institutional, the professional landlords, the institute landlords, are going to be pulling out of the market as well, because the stock market has massively crashed as well. So a lot of landlords may have had loads of cash sitting in the S&P 500 or the FTSE and all that kind of stuff, but because they've been crashing by about 20%, there's a huge amount of dividend income that's not going to be coming in for the higher end investors. So they potentially might be trying to go down the line of selling houses, or just not having the money to cash buy other properties, meaning that there's going to be a lot less, some of the bigger houses, the people that have millions of pounds in stocks and shares, they're not going to have millions of pounds over the next wee while, unless they're investing it very well and they get it on the bounce. But there's going to be a drop in the higher end market, but also in the investor market, which is usually the lower end property, not necessarily the lower end property, but the lower value properties that may be easy for upgrading kind of stuff. There may not just be the cash fluidity in the landlords or the investors to keep that market going over the next wee while. So there's going to be a massive issue going forward. I think for management agencies, for the letting agencies, for the smaller agencies, this is going to be a real tough time. If you are a smaller agency, you may have had more less professional landlords who maybe only have 1, 2, maybe 3 properties at the most. If they have one flat where the tenant suddenly says, I can't pay the rent just now, but you can't chuck me out, that landlord might be completely overrun with bills if they still need to pay bills, unless the government is bringing out some form of mortgage hold or some tax incentives to make sure that landlords aren't completely destroyed by this. There's going to be a big drop in income for agencies that are managing these properties and for sales going forward. So as of 17th of March just now, the property market, which seemed to be a safe haven in the past, it seemed to be like, always just put your money into bricks and mortar. At the moment, that is not looking like a safe place over the short term just now. So in other words, it's going to be very difficult to sell, it's going to be difficult to buy. Additionally, here's the other thing, is doing viewings and doing photos. We've had situations where people are saying, I don't want you doing viewings. Some of the agents that do the viewings are over 70. Some of the agents that we've got that do viewings have diabetes. and they're in the at-risk category, or some of them have asthma and all as well. So they're like, okay, some of our viewing agents are able to do it. There is an idea of doing like virtual viewings, but again, that would possibly only be done in empty properties. If doing that in a property with tenants in there, if a tenant says, I don't want agency workers coming into our property, I don't know who they are, I don't know how well they've cleaned themselves, I don't know if they're carrying something, I might be going to see my grandparents at the weekend, I don't want anybody in my house, we can't have anybody go into their properties. So it'd have to be completely empty and cleaned properties before any viewings are taking place. And again, for a lot of viewing agents, they might be kind of going, I don't want to be doing viewings with people I don't know their cleanliness standards. It's not just about going into an office filled with 60, 80, 100 people. It's about who you're interacting with throughout the day. So there's got to be a big change going on there as well. And there's the idea of virtual viewings where maybe somebody takes an iPad like this and walks around a house, but it's just thoughts at the moment. We don't know if anybody's actually able to do that and how well that comes across. But certainly in terms of, I've been asked to do a video of somebody's house, and I said, yeah, sure, not a problem. The reason was because I think they won't be able to get any viewings because of coronavirus. So I was like, okay, that's fine, but we can't sell a house without somebody physically viewing the property, or at least one of their agents viewing a property. So we still need them to actually have to go in. So I think the sales market and the rental market are going to get absolutely hammered very quickly already. And again, with the amount of people that are losing their jobs in the catering in the catering industry, in the entertainment industry, people that own bars and clubs are having no income coming in. They're not going to be able to pay their rents, not going to be able to pay their mortgages. It's such a massive knock-on effect that's going on at the moment that I think certainly in the UK, certainly in Scotland, there's going to be, as of 2020, the start of 2020, I don't think this landscape is ever going to look the same again. The idea of, just save up your 10% deposit and buy a house and then you're all good. I think it's going to be massively changing from here on in. So watch this space. I think there might be some news regarding property in the UK over the next wee while. But I think I would, if you are a landlord, be prepared that you may be losing rent, you may have tenants move out, and you may have a long wait to either sell a property or have the opportunity to even advertise for new tenants. So yeah, that's just from what I've heard along the grapevine from the people I've interacted with today. But it's not looking good. And if you're a smaller agency, you're going to have to batten down the hatches quite hard just now to not lose too much of your income going on, and again, not lose too much of your staff. So everyone, be careful out there and practice good hygiene, and fingers crossed we'll see what it's like when we come out the other side. Hopefully that happens sometime soon this year. Right, stop. Finished. Share. Finished. Nope. How do I finish this? There. You should want to stop streaming.